Welcome to day 6 of 31 days of scripture, because we should all be able to give at least 3 minutes of our time to the Lord. Today we are reading from the book of Habakkuk. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it is incredibly fun to say. So anyways, this is the book we're reading today. Let's go. I finished reading the book, and I do want to say this is one of the harder books we've done in this series. That might just be me, but especially chapter 1, I read it the first time and my goodness, I did not understand anything. But we refused to give the enemy a foothold, so we read it again. And I say we because I'm hoping you will also read this. It's 3 chapters in the Old Testament, full of content, great content, like the rest of the Bible. But specifically chapter 1, one thing I saw was that, or at least one thing that I took away from it, is it reminded me that we have to trust God's plan, because God's plan will not always be our plan, and it might be completely different, and we might have no idea what's happening, but we have to trust God and let Him take the wheel. And where this is coming from is, context-wise, is the prophet of this book is complaining about injustice, and God's reply is like unexpected. And I think, but obviously his way is better. And so I think that's something that's like a good reminder to have and keep. Along with that, chapter 2, verse 5 specifically, it talks about wealth and greed and pride and restlessness, and how it's like death itself. I'm not going to read the verse out loud because it is quite long, but you should definitely read it yourself. Chapter 2, verse 5. And I think that's just a personal reminder to me to be more humble and not to be greedy whatsoever, and like actually be vigilant about that. I think that's one of the things us as humans can get caught up in, like whether like wealth wise and trying to get rich and trying to better yourself, that we have to remind ourselves not to be greedy and not to be too proud. Instead be humble and satisfied with the Lord, like, and pray to the Lord. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is when it like all clicked. Chapter 3, my goodness, it's such like a beautiful prayer. It's a prayer from the prophet. And I do want to read this verse out loud. Chapter 3, verse 2 says, "O Lord, I have heard of what you have done, and I am filled with awe. Now do again in our times the great deeds you used to do. Be merciful even when you are angry." What a beautiful verse. There's so many beautiful verses in verse 3, and it just relates so much on a like deeper spiritual level. And I definitely recommend reading this book, full of great content that I haven't mentioned because there's so much. Anyways, this is day 6 of 31 days of scripture. Thank you for watching. Bye.